Chapter 2. 9 little sailor boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8.
Filthy night. I tried to go out to get some more wood for the fire, but the wind drove me back.
A storm like that will keep us all indoors.
My apologies for the accommodations, Mr. Narracott, but all the beds are taken.
Makes one wonder where the Owens were planning to sleep, doesn't it?
A good servant follows instructions, sir. He does not question his employer, unless you'd like to share the deceased's room with the corpse.
This will do fine. Thank you, Rogers.
I'll wish you a good night then, sir.
Everyone should be sound asleep by now. Good time for a little stealth work. I copied the contents into my notebook. It's got power, but it still doesn't seem to be working. No need to call unnecessary attention to my snooping. It's really dark up there. I need a light source. Wargrave on Justice. I can only imagine the egotism that lurks within those pages. property of Teresa Robson. I transcribed the interesting passages into my notebook. It's a book holder. Seems like a long time since it's been used. A rather beautifully made globe of the world. The drawer is locked. This could use a closer look. Let me examine this further. Normally, I would never violate someone's privacy this way. However, given the circumstances, I will examine the entries for clues and transcribe any passages I find pertinent. I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook. can't take that apart. That works. Just barely. I can't open it. It's locked. He's as tight as an owl. I expect nothing could wake him up. It's tightly locked. Locked. Morning is coming. I'd best get back to my bed. Well, I didn't get much rest, but at least I have something to show for it. I'd best see if everyone has come down for breakfast.
If what Narracott told Vera is true, and mind you, I take anything he says with a grain of salt, then they will not be sending a boat until at least Monday, even if the storm clears.
Wise to remember, Narracott's the odd man out here.
Yes, thanks to you, I believe, Blore.
At least nothing else has occurred.
I hope you are correct, Miss Claythorne. However, I feel compelled to draw your attention to this table's centerpiece.
Now two are broken. How odd.
Ah, Mr. Narracott, good morning. Since Mr. Marsden won't be joining us, there is an extra place for breakfast, although breakfast itself seems to be a trifle behind schedule.
I'm afraid there is no breakfast at present. Mrs. Rogers has not been able to carry on this morning.
What's the matter with the woman? I was promised fresh apple juice this morning.
I must tell you a sad piece of news. Mrs. Rogers died in her sleep.
Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
She was a very skittish creature, and she had a shock last night. It might have been heart failure.
Her heart certainly failed to beat. What caused it to fail is the question.
Did you hear anything in the night?
No, my sleep was quite restful.
Good day to you, Miss Claythorne. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death, Judge?
I'm afraid it confirms my opinion that there is something very wrong on this island. It occurs to me that if these two deaths were not suicides or accidents, that Mr. Owen may very well be responsible. If so, he is almost certainly on this island somewhere.
I agree. I think we should find a way off this island immediately.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I confess I slept fitfully. Marsden's death, the storm, but I heard nothing. Possibly also due to the storm.
Understandable, Judge. Quite understandable.
Mr. Narracott, can your boat be repaired?
I doubt very seriously it can be repaired. Mr. Blore did a good job.
Steady on. I didn't know then how the land lay, did I?
So you say.
If you find a means of leaving the island or of signaling the mainland, I'm sure we would all be in your debt.
And I'm sure all of us would help in any way we could.
Here, here.
We're never going to leave the island. None of us are ever going to leave.
What were you hinting at concerning Marston's politics?
Only that he'd become mixed up with some foreigners. I think that's all I'd better say at present.
Thank you kindly, Judge. What was the cause of death?
Impossible to say offhand.
There must be an autopsy.
I certainly couldn't give a certificate without one.
When did you find out?
Rogers roused me at first light. He'd gotten up to light the stove and see to the power generator before waking her. When she didn't respond, he got me.
Can you tell when she died?
Without an autopsy, not for certain, but it must have been some hours ago. The body was, quite cold.
Did you hear anything in the night?
No, although it appears I should have.
Thank you for your time, Doctor. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
We know that she consumed something last night. Dr. Armstrong told us so.
I, Mr. Lombard?
You gave her a sedative.
A small dose of Trianol, nothing more.
Doctors have made mistakes before.
You're suggesting I accidentally gave Mrs. Rogers an overdose?
Accidentally or otherwise. One death may have been an accident or suicide, but two in the space of a few hours?
Simply outrageous, man of my standing.
Any more questions, Mr. Narracott?
You said you recognized Owen's voice.
I've had time to think it over, and I'm sure I did. I see no reason to share that information with you.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I'm a very light sleeper. In future, I hope everyone will bear that in mind. Yes, several times I heard something.
You didn't investigate?
With a judge, a detective, and an amateur sleuth in the house, you hardly need my poor skills in that line. I prefer to keep watch.
The hunter in his blind?
A good analogy, Judge.
That'll be all, Mr. Lombard. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
I'm sure Mrs. Rogers wasn't to blame. A good, loyal woman.
Did you hear anything in the night?
I thought I heard a voice calling my name. My wife, she died several years ago. I expect it was a dream.
General, you said you thought you recognized Lombard.
Did I? Yes, I expect I did. But I fail to see what business it might be of yours.
Thank you, General. Stay well. Perhaps this will grant the aging general increased mobility. Are you sure you can't tell me how you recognize Mr. Lombard?
Lombard, yes. He does look familiar. But the name is wrong. Or is it? I'm sorry, young man. My memory plays tricks on me.
Thank you, General. Any theories about Mrs. Rogers' death?
Conscience.
What do you mean by that?
She was accused, together with her husband, of having deliberately murdered her former employer, an old lady. You all saw her last night. She broke down completely. The shock of her wickedness brought home to her was too much to bear. She literally died of fear.
Possibly, if there was cardiac weakness.
Call it, if you prefer, an act of God.
Thank you, Miss Brett. You're a detective, Mr. Bloor. Any theories?
I appreciate you recognizing the fact there's a professional present. I'd like to know what she had to eat or drink last night before she collapsed.
Rogers assures me she had nothing whatsoever.
Of course he would say that. But see here. They've done a murder and gotten away with it. Now she's all hysterical, likely to give the show away. She's a danger to her husband, that's what she is.
Oh, I should hardly think a man would do that to his wife.
You said you knew something about the history of this island.
Most of the old stuff can be found in the library. Its more recent history is just as interesting, though. But I'm not inclined to divulge that just yet.
Thanks, Bloor.
Chapter 3. 8 little sailor boys traveling in Devon. One said he'd stay there, and then there were 7.
Rogers didn't let his wife's death get in the way of his custodial duties. I assume everyone has gone off on their own pursuits. I should do the same. Eight little sailor boys. The plot thickens.
I asked Rogers what this Miss Brady had suffered from. In a certain form of cardiac trouble, when an attack comes on, an ampule of amyl nitrate is broken and inhaled. If amyl nitrate were withheld...
I see. No positive action must be taken. No arsenic to obtain and administer. Nothing definite at all.
And nothing could be proved against Rogers or his wife.
It explains our situation here quite neatly. There are crimes that cannot be brought home to their perpetrators by the usual methods.
A judge taking advantage of his position? No offense, Judge.
A doctor under the influence letting a scalpel slip? No offense, Doctor. The point is, it explains Mr. Unknown. He has, for reasons only he knows, decided to seek justice for certain crimes as he sees them.
And who among us is the only one that stands unaccused?
Ah, Mr. Narracott, right on cue.
Have you seen any of the others?
Before we came in here, I saw Miss Brent knitting on the patio as if she hadn't a care in the world.
Could you perform an autopsy on Mrs. Rogers?
I could, sir, but I won't. As Mr. Lombard so helpfully pointed out, it might be thought I had something to do with her death. It would be unethical for me to operate.
How much Trianol is missing from your supply?
I wouldn't know. I left the bottle with Rogers in case his wife required a second draft.
Thank you for your time, Doctor. Have you seen any of the others?
I believe Mr. Bloor and Mr. Lombard are off searching the island for Mr. Owen.
You didn't want to join them?
They are men accustomed to physical activity. I prefer to search for the truth with my mind.
Me too.
You think they'll find Mr. Owen?
Not in the sense you mean.
Where would you search for Mr. Owen?
Closer to home.
Any idea how we can get off the island?
I've allowed you to continue your own investigations, Mr. Narracott, because I disagree that being the odd man out makes you more suspect. On the contrary. But I've given you a good deal of advice already. It would be well if you thought for yourself for a while and let us get on with our game.
I am grateful for your assistance, Judge Wargrave.
Nice to have a break in the weather, although I don't expect it will last.
You don't seem concerned by the 2 deaths.
I remember a text that hung in my nursery as a child. Be sure thy sin will find thee out.
So in some way, Marston's and Mrs. Rogers' sins have found them out?
Of course. I have nothing to fear. I've committed no sin. You, if your story is true, have only been protecting your brother. God's law understands such a loving gesture, even if man's law does not.
What are you knitting?
A shawl for my niece.
It's quite subdued for a girl, isn't it?
A man would say that, of course. She is a modest child, and decent. These colours are most appropriate.
Have you seen Rogers?
He's in the kitchen, I think, preparing a cold supper.
Good day, Miss Brent.
Maybe Owen has wings and is perched someplace we can't reach.
Or swimming around out there with the fish.
You think you'll find Owen?
If he's here, we'll find him.
Why don't you split up?
I suggested that.
The island isn't that big. I felt it was good to stick together to be sure every inch has been covered.
Have you seen Vera?
Miss Claythorne was up on Ship Rock when we searched up there.
Have you seen the General?
He was down on that little beach to the south of Ship Rock. He's definitely gaga, if you ask me.
Like he was in a trance, talking to his wife, asking her forgiveness. Creepy. He sent that Richmond fellow to his death for playing up to the missus. Make no mistake about that.
You look tired.
Miss Claythorne's concern for my well-being moves me far more than yours, Narrowcart. But thanks all the same.
Any conclusions?
Only that I'm damn glad I brought this along.
You have a gun? Why didn't you say something?
I would have used it if necessary.
Still, I don't like it very much.
Well, I don't care very much.
Any idea how we can get off the island?
When I was... well, a friend of mine, actually. When he was in the army, he saw a new parachute design that allowed you to steer. If you like, I can draw you a plan to construct a parachute like the one he saw.
That would be splendid.
Thank you. One parachute per order. It's pretty crude, but I think you'll get the idea. I added a list of materials, too.
Thanks. Thank you, Lombard. That cliff is surely the highest point on the island. Nice peaceful spot you found for yourself, sir.
There is so little time. So little time.
I'm making a tour of the island, so to speak.
Quite the adventurer, aren't you?
Have you seen anything that might be useful to us?
You don't understand. You don't understand at all. I'm not sorry I came here. No, it was time. I'm content at last. It feels very strange to come to the end, not have to go on. I know now I will never leave. That's peace. Real peace.
Thank you, General. Stay well.
Seems so close, as if I could almost jump across and leave this island behind me.
I'd hate for you to jump, Miss Claythorne. I'd miss you.
I think I'd miss you too.
Think someone on shore could see us?
If they used a telescope like the one on the patio outside my room, I expect they might.
What do you think of Lombard?
I think he's like last night's storm. Dark and wild and possibly dangerous.
But you like him even so?
I love storms.
Have you ever been in love?
I thought I was. I thought I could do anything for him.
What happened?
I'd rather not talk about it, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry the job here didn't work out for you.
It was only temporary. I want to be a teacher, not a secretary. I want another chance to teach more than anything in the world.
Tell me about them, sir.
Mr. Narracott, would you think me terribly rude if I just wanted to stand here and look at the scenery before the next storm closes in?
No, I'm sorry I bothered you.
Oh, you didn't bother me. Quite the contrary. But now I'd just like to enjoy the scenery.
No one's hiding in there. I'd stake my reputation on it.
I've done some hunting in my day for some very elusive game. If Owen's in that house, he must be invisible.
Any luck at all?
There's no one on this island except our 9 selves.
Where haven't you searched?
The woodshed. I should have guessed he might be out there.
Have you reached any conclusions?
Maybe it was just an accident and a suicide. Or 2 accidents or 2 suicides for all I know.
That'll do, Mr. Bloor. I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook. I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook. I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though.
Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves. Britons never will be slaves. Oh, makes the eyes water a bit.
It's a shortwave radio. It could be useful if I could get it working. It seems to be missing quite a few parts. This is an odd sort of power cord. It doesn't seem to fit into a regular socket. The handle jiggles but won't open. I must have dialed in the wrong combination. This is certainly a clue of some sort. I copied the contents into my notebook. Now I have to start again from the beginning. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. Aha! It's open! There's something in this drawer. It's a lone raven-shaped earring. There's something in this drawer. It's a fragment of a document. That swapped the positions of the two drawers. Rule the waves, of course. What's this? A secret door. Too dark. I might trip and break my neck, and I certainly don't want to do Owen's work for him. I'm surprised the electricity still works in here. This panel seems out of place. I can't open it. It's locked. Fascinating. It looks like some kind of single-person submersible. Clearly damaged beyond repair, though. The water here is rather calm compared to the waves crashing against the rest of this benighted tip. Let's hope that holds. The current was too strong. I'd best not try that again. It washed me up on this beach. I'd swear this wasn't here before. Must be one of Owen's little games. I can't see anything of interest. It opens. There's something inside. I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook.
Woodshed is empty.
This is a dead end. If Owen's buried under that woodpile, good riddance to him.
Have you searched the entire island?
Early days yet. Plenty of ground still to cover.
That'll do, Mr. Blore.
I need to subdue the bees first. They'll do me in for sure if I disrupt their artificial home. There. The bees are now fast asleep. All quite drowsy, anyhow.
Hello, Rogers.
Hello, sir. Was there anything you required?
Just looking around. That ham looks good.
Mrs. Rogers had a way with hams. Baked, boiled, fried, pickled, en casserole. Always a treat.
When will dinner be ready?
8 o'clock, sir. Or close to it.
Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary since you arrived here, Rogers?
Just this, sir. This house is more like a museum than a residence. I've dusted every square inch, and I found articles left behind by many previous owners, including the Robsons, that actress, and even the Admiralty. The only owners who seem to have left no mark at all are Mr. and Mrs. Owen.
Very kind of you to give me your time, Mr. Rogers.
The wind is picking up again, and there are white horses on the sea.
Has anyone seen the good doctor?
Here I am, Judge, just freshening up in my room before dinner.
How did your search go, Mr. Lombard?
Badly, Judge. I'm afraid I found nothing and lost Mr. Blore.
There's a squall moving in again. Shiprock's become quite windy.
Rogers? What is it, man?
The figures, sir. The figures in the middle of the table. Look, now another's gone. There's only 7. It doesn't make sense. What's going on? What's happening?
We can discuss this new development over dinner. It's ready, Rogers?
Yes, sir. It's only cold tongue and cold ham, sir.
We understand, Rogers.
Where's the General?
Last time I saw him was on that beach. You asked me about him, Narracott. Did you find him there?
Yes.
Did he say anything to you?
His mind was wandering.
Perhaps you'd be so good as to fetch the General, Mr. Narracott. We'll delay dinner for you both.
No need for that. He's dead. Down there on the beach, leaning against a rock like a stick of driftwood.